Let's fucking go. You thought it was over. Y'all thought like, oh man, it was not gonna be another video for like another year. He just gave up. He's not gonna talk about anything else. Before we get into this, viewer discretion is advised. There will be discussions about political persecutions, genocides, kidnapping, um, and other, possibly even, sexual assault and rape and other triggering topics discussed in this video. So if any of those things I just listed are triggering to you, you should exit this video and you should check out one of my more fun-loving and less serious video. Not sure how long this video is going to be, speaking of which. This possibly is going to be my longest video that I've ever made. You see, I didn't want to exactly make a video about this topic because I was kind of not scared to speak up, but I guess you can say in a way I was about the Israel-Palestine conflict. Because being a leftist in general, it is like, we are very marginalized in the way the media covers people that are speaking for Palestine. People who speak for Palestinian people and the liberation of these people are also seen as often supporters of like Hamas and other terrorist organizations that's done did terrible things like murder and kidnapping and rape. Of course they stole a lot of shit too, I'm sure. But everybody that supports the Palestinian people is not a Hamas supporter. While we're talking about the subject of the factions in this war and speaking about the things that's going on, every faction and group of people fighting against Israel right now is not Hamas. Hamas is just, if I feel like by both the even the far left over here and the far right and stuff like that, Hamas is always propped up as the end all be all main example of resistance, led by the Palestinian people, where there's both been violent and non-violent, protest means, done by the Palestinian people, but those type of movements are either crushed, marginalized, or never brought up. Because every single person in Palestine is not an Islamic Jihad nutcase. And let me be clear, this is not a video, first of all, for anti-Semites. If you're a black Hebrew Israelite bitch or some neo-Nazi dumbass little dick guy, not your video. This is not a video speaking about anti-Semitism. And this is also not a video validating, groups like Hamas or any other groups that kidnap, kill, and torture civilians and that want to insert, Sharia law into, into the Palestinian, political, network, I guess you can say, Palestinian Authority, which is an actual thing. I just learned that word like 2 days ago. Not authority, but Palestinian Authority, because I did a lot of research before I decided to do this video. Speaking of Hamas, a lot of people wonder why would somebody join a terrorist group, a pretty much far-right, fascist, Islamic Jihad extremist group. And I did a little bit of digging about things that Palestinians deal with. We talk about this all the time on the left, where when people don't have resources to survive or a reason to live, they're vulnerable to radical political causes. And they're furthermore vulnerable to armed conflict with the people that they view as their oppressors. Again, not me trying to validate, people joining, because this goes far beyond just people joining Hamas or other Islamic Jihad terror groups. This is the reason why you have a lot of Latino and African American street gangs. It's the reason why a lot of white people become Proud Boys and neo-Nazis. When you see a lot of people that are displaced, struggling with, because they're struggling with colonialism and apartheid. But, when people are struggling even with late capitalism, people are oppressed and put into a police state. People will join any movement that they feel is a form of resistance to the oppressors that be. So be that Hamas, be that the or the Islamic Jihad, or the two communist slash left wing organizations right here. And people will eventually get so angry to the point when they don't have, the things they need to survive. They don't have the, that thing that America likes to say, the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, which is a line that I love because I feel like everybody on planet Earth should have those things. But when those things are missing for whatever reason, be it for money reason, apartheid colonialism, or racism, or bigotry of some kind, people are often likely to turn to armed movements to get that liberation that they seek. And it's not to underestimate the amount of shit that Palestinians deal with. I could not cover every little thing in this video that Palestinians have and don't have. But what I can do is I brought up a couple of tabs of some statistics about, things that are wrong in the Palestinian society caused by the apartheid led by Israel. First of all, there's a problem in Gaza, or just in Palestine in general, where they have no clean drinking water. I just learned literally today, as I was doing research, that they are not allowed to import concrete, so they can't build, not only not build fallout and bomb shelters, but they also cannot build a water treatment plant. A lot of the water that's ported into Gaza, especially, these 2 million people don't have enough to eat, and they don't have enough to drink. So just imagine you live your entire life, because you got a lot of people out here, especially Western privileged people, that think that their life is so bad because they saw a black person in a movie, so they're getting ready to start a second civil war. So imagine you live every day of your life, and the water that comes out of the tap can kill you. I'm not going to necessarily read all this stuff because it's not necessary for me to really go through this article or any article talking about it, because I say multiple. I'm talking about how Palestinians don't have clean drinking water. Speaking of which, talking about the police state, 40% of Palestinians in occupied territories have been arrested or put in jail. And from what I've read about this is that they can imprison you and hold you for no reason, and they don't have to give a good reason about why the Israeli government imprisoned you or held you in in prison. Some people might say that these people could be terrible, but I feel like when you, especially because these are people of color, but it's not even about being people of color. It's about just being human beings that are more likely to experience police brutality, more likely to go to jail, more likely to experience harassment from Israeli settlers. And when these settlers get into a dispute with a Palestinian, the police are almost always guaranteed to side with the Jewish person than the Palestinian. We go here to a clip that went viral, I feel like, a couple of years back, about this woman. We had just let the clip do the work.
Stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is gonna steal it.
No one.
Imagine if somebody said that to you. The house that you bought, you worked for, you took out a mortgage on, you take care of, you clean, you curate and take care of your house. But somebody can just come to your house and take it just because they feel like it.
Is allowed to steal it, ya ammi.
The closest thing that you can get to this is pretty much, I'm sure a lot of black people having their houses taken by the bank because they couldn't afford the mortgage interest rates. Or, well, that's not even a black thing, that's a general thing, but I'm sure it's more likely to happen to black people. And also the gentrification of some black communities that we see today. But it's not nearly on the scale, because you got to keep in mind, this is not a inter-country thing that they consider, because Palestinians are not viewed as Israeli citizens. They're viewed as outsiders. The dealings of Israeli citizens and settlers with Palestinian is viewed as they're viewed as foreigners. So much to the point where one time I read that they can't even drive on certain roads because, the quote unquote, they're scared of terrorism or whatever. And a lot of Palestinians, ironically enough, have to work for their oppressors after they take over certain amounts of land.
Jacob, you know this is not your house.
Yes, but if I go, you don't go back. So what's the problem? Why are you yelling at me? I didn't do this.
It's not your house, dude. I don't need to commentate on the video. Clearly, this guy's a piece of shit. I'm sure everybody that watches my videos can attest to that.
I didn't do this.
But
It's easy to yell at me, but I didn't do this.
you are stealing my house.
Just because your government enables you to do something does not mean you should take part in and always do that thing, especially if it's hurting or taking away something from somebody else. And I'm sure we don't really need to say anything else. Speaking of which, didn't I bring up another tab? I forgot to talk about this one. Before we move on to the Fox News presentation, or any other rambly bullshit that I have to say, I also want to talk about the average age of a person in Palestine. Remember earlier I talked about radicalization to different terror groups, whether it's right wing or left wing. Because let's face it, some of those left wing Palestinian groups were also terrorist groups. They did a lot of terrible shit that I will not, stand up here and shake my ass for. I'm not doing it. Point being is that you have a lot of young men lacking opportunity, highly religious, vulnerable to propaganda of far right extremism. You put yourself in an endless cycle of violence. And before the Fox News presentation I get to, I also want to say this about Israel. One thing that never makes sense to me about this conflict is the fact that Israel exists the way that it does. Because they feel as though it's like this. People are not going to go into the night without resistance. You can see it all through history, whether it was during American chattel slavery or the Warsaw. You had a lot of black people, that killed their slave masters and what have you, and fought against them. You had a lot of Jewish people who killed and poisoned and sabotaged their SS soldiers or, German military equipment so they would lose the war. People are not going to go into the night without a fight. People are not just going to go into the dark without a fight. So what I'm getting to is that Israel as a country or as a population of people, because I don't think it's the people, I think it's more of the government. Even though from what I hear, a lot of Israeli people are not the best people with the best opinions about different politics. But what I'm saying is, one thing that I noticed about Israel is that despite the oppression of the Palestinian people, Israel attempts to exist as a normal democracy. Food, games, music, concerts, homes, businesses, office buildings. I'm sure butcher shops. I don't think they eat pork over there, but you can get some beef or turkey or whatever. Somehow, Israel thinks that the Palestinian people living literally just miles away, regardless of what kind of radicalization they get into, are just going to accept this and not do anything. And what really amazes me, James here, is that Israel continues to try to have a normal society despite being under the constant threat of war. Not really war, but insurgency. Like, people have like nice cars and, clothing stores and all this stuff. But it's just like, you never know when Hamas or the PLFP or some other organization is going to try something. So it just mind boggles me personally that Israel does not want to address these problems. And the way that they want to address it is by bombing and shooting people, which is fucking insane. Before the Fox News presentation, before I forget, I also wanted to show this video clip during this video about, what actually happened a couple of days ago. So I found this pretty interesting. Because these people felt as though, and they were occupied and walled into a small area with very little resources, no education, no hospitals or anything. They were not allowed to partake in Israeli society or Palestinian society as Palestinian society shrinks as it goes. They have also tried peaceful means of doing this out here, where they tried to do the wall protest and stuff like that. They tried to all go to this wall and protest, but they had Israeli snipers shooting Palestinians. This is insane. I don't understand why on earth do we I understand why America does it, and it's like, because if people are wondering the reason about how does this continue, we'll get to the video in a second, but a lot of people are looking for explanation. That's the point of this video. It's going to be a long ass video. The reason why this happens is because the United States and other powerful Western countries allow this to happen because they refuse to make Israel obey international law equally as they do other countries. Keep in mind, when any other country, and they should be held to account too, whether it's China, Iran, what's another good one? Saudi Arabia and other countries violate human rights laws. They violate international law. Russia even. They're called out for it. But you notice Israel never is. And the reason for that is because the United States and other Western countries have a vested interest in having a powerful military power in the Middle East. Not to mention the fact that a lot of American Christian fundamentalists, I'm Christian myself, but I'm not fucking stupid, because that's what a Christian fundamentalist is, a fucking moron. Christian nationalists are stupid. But a lot of evangelicals think that the Jewish people have to be in their homeland, so when Jesus come back, that the rapture can start. So all of this, both moneyed interest, I'm sure, from the defense industry, and Christian fundamentalism causes Israel to seek continued support from the West. And despite all the human rights violations, bombing hospitals, killing children, and after this video, I want to show a clip of a bombing run and talk about some of the combat footage I saw.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated.
Because despite that quote-unquote show of force, and I'm hearing other weird shit too, like they aired in on paragliders and shit like that. Let me see if I can find that clip first before I go what I'm talking about. Let me see. You see what I mean by the existence of Israel in a way that is like, I know Israel is highly militarized, but you think it wouldn't allow things like outdoor music festivals and shit because things like that are clearly vulnerable to attack, especially when technically you're at war, a war that never really ended. Speaking of which, we have to talk about this before we move on to anything else. Let me see. Not the rocket attacks, armed incursions. Yeah, we have to talk about this. And yeah, this happened. And you can read in the week right there. The events began around 7 a.m. Siren warned of an incoming rocket attack. The armed, militants dressed in the military attire. They used anything that they can fucking find basically, and fired on attendees to this rave. Which is honestly one of the it's terrible. That so many of these innocent people, not just Israelis, but even people from other countries, lost their lives because this 70 years of apartheid and rule has caused a lot of people to become so angry and radicalized that they don't see the difference between people in uniform and people without, or they refuse to see it and get a catharsis of punishing the innocent unarmed civilians of the country that they see as the enemy. And, that's all I can really say about this is that I pray that as many people as possible get found by whether it's the IDF or Israeli police or whatever and brought back home, because this is very senseless violence, and this right here is why I cannot support quote unquote Hamas, because this is unacceptable when you know because a lot of these people, as you see, they were kids. People in this age brackets are not working in the government. So we gonna back up a little bit because I also want to talk about some of the combat footage that I watch, and I guess it doesn't matter which one I go to, but I think most of the combat footage I saw was from here. But I'm even looking at stuff that wasn't there. This is still ongoing. This is insane. And what really struck me about, because I watched a couple of videos, I believe it's pronounced Siderat. I heard people pronounce it differently, but I'm saying Siderat. I think that sounds cooler. But anyway, what I keep saying about the way that Israeli society wants to continue forward without solving this problem, because a lot of the fighting done in these battles were not even done by the IDF, like Israeli Defense Force soldiers. A lot of the fighting has literally been done by the Israeli police. And it's like, how can you attempt, without coming to peace, without giving these people the things that they need to survive, even if you allow them, or you should allow them, their own self-determination. You don't do that. And you think that these people are just going to disappear? You're never going to experience any kind of like hostilities or anything? You're fucking insane. Anyways, we back up. I want to just read about this one. I don't care if I'm on camera because I didn't know some of this stuff even happened. Is this still a thing? Nope. But I guess I can stop. Let me see. Like I said, no, I have to read this stuff. Let's see. And I'm also checking it off in my head. I also talked about the I also talked about the what you call it, the motherfucker, the the combat footage I saw, which was very disturbing. But one last thing I want to show is because a lot of people are not understanding the scope or how the odds are against Palestinian people. And I just want to get people to understand, like, let me see if I can figure it out. Let me see. Bombing. Because people don't understand, like, the scope of war. And I want to keep. No, we'll let it play all the way through before I even say anything.
Do you know anything about that? What can you report at this stage?
Jesus, fuck.
Yumna, please take cover. If you are in a position to do so safely, you can explain to us what we're happening. If you are not,
And keep in mind, a lot of this is indiscriminate bombing. They say that they're chasing down the terrorists, but number one, Hamas uses its civilians as human shields, and Israel knows this, but they bomb anyway. And a lot of people are not understanding, like, the destructive capability of, like, of one of these weapons of war. Because, like, when these things bomb and kill people, a lot of people don't realize that you're not really given time to react or think about what you want to do. Often at the times, death comes, swiftly for millions of people. It's been times, and I might do a separate video on this if this gets too long. But when one of these things are coming for you, you don't know or see, what is going to happen. This is why I don't like it when a lot of people keep yelling, like, civil war, civil war, civil war. Is because the damage done by war and the weapons of modern warfare is, even to me, because I do a lot of research into it, it's incalculable to the human mind unless you're actually there experiencing it. This is not a movie. When you get shot, mortars, artillery, and, bombings from fighter bombers, this is a regular cycle of life in Palestine. And, it's a lot of people that claim that they want to bring that shit here. And I think they don't understand what they're saying. But the people that do understand, unfortunately, are the Palestinian people that have basically for the past 40 or 50 years been facing round-the-clock bombing. Israel just sends a text message to people and then they destroy the building. But I guess without further ado, let's I'm gonna see what time I'm at, because I might end this section and do another video. 30 minutes. You know what? I'm gonna end this video right here at 30 minutes. I did a lot of my rambling talk about this conflict and covered some actual news that I want to talk about, so I might end it very soon. Let me think if there's anything that I missed besides the Fox News segment. I don't think I missed anything else that I wanted to show everybody. I think I grabbed everything. So yeah, we're in this video at 30 minutes, and the second video will be coming right up after this.